Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Welcome back to PricewaterhouseCoopers Startup Radio with your host, Steve Bengston.
Many investors complain they don't know what a company does, even after reading the business plan. Communicating clearly what a company or product does remains a problem for many companies when interacting with consumers. Our next guest, Marc Rudov, is a veteran Silicon Valley marketer who helps companies communicate clearly. Marc, why do companies have such a hard time articulating their value propositions?
You know, it's interesting from your intro, Steve, that VCs are part of the problem. Because they force techno-speak on their portfolio companies, and I will get to that in a few seconds. I wanted to give you three reasons to answer your question. Number one, people in general are bad communicators, and that's why there's such a high divorce rate. Then they infuse those personal communications deficiency in their business communications, and you can see that when you read their websites. I read technology company websites all the time. I can't figure out what they do. And if you can't make your point in 15 seconds, you've already lost your audience. Engineers like to talk about their products. If you imagine the little kid who builds something with an erector set, then he shows his parents, look what I made, and they look at it and they say, well, I don't get it. And his attitude is, well, why don't you get it? It's clear to me. And that's the way a lot of engineers are when they message what their companies do, what their products are. What they should be doing is explaining what problems they're solving, and they should be doing it in customer language, not vendor language. And the third point that I wanted to mention before is that VCs are part of the problem. For example, I've consulted with companies who told me that the VC said, we want you to put Web 2.0 in your messaging. Well, guess what? Most people have no clue what Web 2.0 is. They don't know what Web 1.0 is, and they're not going to know what Web 3.0 is. So to speak in technology language in technology jargon, is doing a disservice. And it's totally unnecessary because, as I said, when a customer thinks about what his life is every day and what his problems are, the last thing he's thinking about is techno jargon. So those are the three main reasons why people can't communicate in business settings.
What can companies do to remedy this situation?
Well, let's take an example of Apple Computer. Apple Computer is the exception. Apple Computer knows how to communicate. Look at the iPhone. It sells a lot of iPhones, which, in my opinion, are inferior products. They're ridiculously expensive, and I've put iPhones through the paces, and they're not good products. But Apple is selling a lot of them because of the way it communicates, part logic and part emotion, and that's extremely important. What a lot of high-tech companies do is they only communicate in logic, and they forget the emotion. The thing that companies need to do is they need to learn how to get noticed, remembered, and repeated. If the benefits of your product are known only to you, then your messaging is irrelevant, and those benefits are irrelevant. And that's one of the things that I can do, Steve, because I'm on Fox News every week. I'm in front of 3 million people in 90 countries. I'm on for about 5 minutes, and I have 15 seconds to make my point. And if I don't make my point quickly and clearly, people will change to the other channel. And so if you're running a technology company, you have to have that kind of mentality that if you don't get your point out there quickly, somebody's going to switch you to another channel. And so that's how I can help companies. I can take a look at what they're doing. I have the technology background. I have the TV background, and I can say, look, I don't get what you're doing. And if you can't convince me of what you're doing, you're not going to be able to convince a lot of other people. And the end result of this is that the sales cycles tend to be too long, and your closing rate is too long. And also, when you're trying to raise capital, if the investors, as you said in your opening statement, if the investors don't get what you do, you lose them, and you need to you need to grab them quickly, because you have one shot at getting 5 or 6 or 7 people in a room to say, wow, this is fantastic. And don't forget, after that meeting with the VCs is over, they need to be able to remember what you said, and they need to be able to repeat it to other people. And if they can't do that, you have failed.
Well, thanks, Mark. That music says we're out of time, but I appreciate you clarifying some of the problems companies run into, and hopefully they'll listen to your solutions and use you to improve their communication.
My pleasure. Have them come to markrudov.com.
Good luck.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll be back next week from Silicon Valley. I'm Steve Bengston.
You've been listening to PricewaterhouseCoopers Radio with your host, Steve Bengston.
If you've ever thought about starting your own home-based internet business, this may be the most important message you'll ever hear. The internet is a fantasy land of get-rich schemes, scam artists, and other crooks that can't wait to rip you off and leave you with nothing to show for it. Don't let them cheat you. Find out how to start your own internet business the right way without falling into the traps that are out there waiting for you everywhere. Go to worldwidebrands.com and download the free ebook, Starting Your Internet Business Right by Chris Malta. Chris is the product sourcing editor for eBay Radio, the host of the Entrepreneur Magazine eBiz radio show, and an eBay certified solution provider. Over 500,000 people have downloaded Chris's free ebook to find out the truth about internet marketing. And the good news is you can run a successful internet business from your home. Find out how with this free ebook. Go to worldwidebrands.com now.